They said it was just a penny. Worth 1 cent tossed in a jar, forgotten in a drawer, lost under couch cushions. But what if I told you that one ordinary-looking coin, minted in 1949, without a mint mark, has secretly changed the lives of a few lucky collectors, making some of them over $4 million richer, overnight? Think about that. A coin most people wouldn't bend down to pick up from the sidewalk, is now one of the most mysterious and sought-after pieces in American coin history. But why? What makes the 1949 wheat penny with no mint mark so powerful? So dangerous to ignore? You're about to find out, but I need you to promise something first. Stay with me to the very end. Because if you walk away too early, you might miss the single clue that separates a common penny from a financial miracle. Let's go back. The year is 1949. America is rebuilding after World War II. Factories are humming. Pennies are being struck by the millions, but something unusual happens inside the Philadelphia Mint. For reasons still debated by historians and numismatists, a microscopic variation occurred in a limited batch of the 1949 pennies. No mint mark, as expected from Philadelphia coins. But hidden within this batch, were subtle striking errors, planchet anomalies, and a design variant now believed to be the ghost print of an unreleased master die. This wasn't public knowledge. Not then. In fact, it took over 40 years for the truth to start leaking out. That it began with a farmer in Kentucky. He walked into a pawn shop in 1993 with a jar of old coins. Among them, a 1949 wheat penny. No mint mark. At first, no one noticed anything special. But a local collector spotted it, took a magnifying glass, and froze. The coin showed doubling on the Liberty inscription. Faint, but unmistakable. The edges weren't quite right, slightly broader, the lettering subtly misaligned. That penny later sold at auction $4.61000. Most dismissed it as a fluke. Until another surfaced, this time with a dramatic die crack slicing through Lincoln's shoulder. It went $4.132000. And then came the storm. A collector in Texas held onto a 1949 wheat penny he got as a child. It had never been graded, never appraised. It sat in a tiny glass capsule on his bookshelf for decades. In 2021, he finally submitted it to PCGS. The result? MS-67 red, with a previously undocumented die variety now known as the Ghost Lincoln. One of only 3 known to exist. When it hit auction, it shattered expectations. Final sale, $4.08 million. This wasn't just a penny anymore. It was a secret. A treasure map. And it's hiding in change drawers, in pocketbooks, in your childhood collection box you haven't opened in years. So how do you know if you have it? First, check the date, 1949. There must be no mint mark beneath the date. That rules out Denver and San Francisco. You're looking for the Philadelphia issue. Next, examine Liberty and In God We Trust. On rare Eror specimens, there's slight doubling, a visual echo of the letters. Now, the key detail, on some ultra-rare variants, Lincoln's bust looks slightly off-center. His shoulder may appear bloated, or the rim near 1949 may be unusually thick. These are signs of a die clash or misaligned die strike, mistakes that make this coin so desirable. If you see anything like that, don't clean it. Don't polish it. Don't spend it. Instead, store it safely and submit it to a grading service like PCGS or NGC. A coin like this, even in circulated condition, could bring $3,000 to $15,000. But in pristine condition, with Eror details confirmed, it can change your life. Now I want you to pause for a second and imagine something. You're holding a penny. Just one. Everyone else overlooked it. But you looked closer. You saw the cracks, the clues, the secrets hiding in plain sight. You get it appraised, your hands shaking. And the email comes through, confirmed. Ultra-rare variety. Estimated value, $1.20 million. What would you do? Pay off your debts? Buy your dream home? Fund your grandchild's education? This isn't a fantasy. This is the reality of coin collecting in 2025. The hidden wealth is real, if you know where to look. So check your coins. Reopen those old jars. Ask your grandparents. Because if a 1949 wheat penny with no mint mark shows up in your hands, and it matches the signs we talked about today, you may be holding not just a piece of history, but your freedom, and it all started with one penny. They say the smallest things can change your entire life. But what if I told you that a tiny copper penny, worth just 1 cent when it was made, could now be the key to a $3.8 million fortune? This isn't just a story about money. It's about a forgotten coin that slipped through history, and could be sitting in your drawer right now. So here's the question: have you ever checked the date on your pennies? I mean really checked. Because the 1952 Lincoln wheat penny with an S mint mark isn't just another old coin. It's a ghost, a sleeper, a silent millionaire waiting to be found. One collector bought groceries using this exact coin, and didn't realize what he'd just given away. Another found it inside an inherited coin jar, sold it at auction, and used the money to pay off his house, his debts, and retire early. That's the power of this coin. But what makes this penny so rare? To understand that, we have to go back. The year was 1952. America was post-war, hopeful, rebuilding. But the San Francisco Mint was operating on limited dies and a tight budget. That year, fewer S-mint pennies were produced with perfectly aligned dies, especially those struck on leftover planchets from earlier years. Some of them show microscopic doubling, and a few were accidentally struck using a transitional alloy. These tiny errors make this coin a golden goose among collectors, and here's the twist. In 2007, a perfectly preserved 1952 S wheat penny with a unique die crack across the reverse and slight doubling on Lincoln's profile sold at private auction for $3.8 million. Yes, you heard that right, $3.8 million. 1 cent became a fortune, but the most shocking part. Experts believe there are still 8 to 12 of these high-grade specimens circulating in private hands, or tucked away in old cigar boxes, coin albums, or attic jars, completely forgotten. Imagine. You might already own one. And not even know it. So how do you spot it? First, check the date. It must be 1952, with the tiny S below Lincoln. But that's just the beginning. You'll need to look closer. Does the coin have strong details, especially around Lincoln's hair and the wheat stalks on the reverse? That could indicate a high-grade strike. Next, check for doubling. Subtle doubling around, "In God We Trust," or Lincoln's eye is key. Some rare errors also show a faint die crack near the rim or a misaligned mint mark, a sign the die was replaced mid-run, which only happened briefly. If you find any of these signs, do not sell it casually. Your next step is to get the coin professionally graded by PCGS or NGC. If it scores MS67 or higher, and has verifiable die anomalies, you're not holding a penny anymore. You're holding power. You're holding possibility. You're holding a new life, because $3.8 million doesn't just pay the bills, it transforms your reality. It erases debt. It sends kids to college. It buys freedom, time, and peace, and maybe, just maybe, that's what you've been needing. So tonight, when you empty your pockets or dig through that old change jar, take one more look. Because in that handful of forgotten coins might be the miracle you've been waiting for. 1 cent. One chance. One life-changing moment. The 1952 S wheat penny isn't just rare, it's destiny in disguise. Tossed into a drawer. Lost in a dusty coffee can. Forgotten in change jars all across America. But what if I told you that a single 1965 Lincoln penny, with no mint mark, is now valued at over $3.50 million, and most collectors don't even know why? Right now, there could be one in your house. Hiding in plain sight. But blink and you'll miss the signs. One wrong assumption and you could accidentally spend it at a gas station, instead of changing your life forever. In 1965, America was in chaos. The U.S. Mint had just removed silver from its dimes, quarters, and half dollars. Coin shortages swept the country. And quietly, almost invisibly, something extraordinary happened with the Lincoln cent pennies that shouldn't have existed, were struck. But not in Denver. Not in San Francisco. These had no mint mark at all, and that's where the mystery begins. Why would the U.S. Mint strike a 1965 penny with no mint mark when most others had one? Why are experts still debating its origin decades later? And why have some collectors paid more than the price of a house just to get their hands on one? There's a story buried inside this tiny coin, a story of government panic, experimental strikes, and a printing mistake that may have changed numismatic history. And if you find the right one, your entire future could change. Let's go back. The year is 1965. The coin shortage crisis is in full swing. Silver prices are skyrocketing. The government is desperate. To keep up with demand, the U.S. Mint began cutting corners. One major decision. Removing mint marks completely for a few years, starting that year, to prevent collectors from hoarding coins based on rarity, but that's where things got complicated. While the official order was no mint marks, some coins from certain facilities were still struck with subtle differences. Certain Philadelphia-struck coins, usually considered plain, had unusual planchet characteristics. Some were struck on leftover bronze blanks from earlier years. Others were struck using experimental dies meant for testing, never meant to reach public circulation, and then came the error that made headlines decades later. A batch of 1965 Lincoln pennies with no mint mark, struck on rare transitional planchets, leftover from 1964 or even misused proof blanks. Only a handful are known to exist. And when one surfaced in a private collection, graded and authenticated by PCGS, it sold for a jaw-dropping $3.5 million at a private auction in 2021. But here's where things get even more dramatic: the man who found that coin. He almost threw it away. It sat in an envelope for years, part of an old estate his father left behind. He was about to sell the collection to a pawn shop, until something told him to look closer. He noticed a slight thickness in the rim. The lettering looked sharper. Different. He sent it to be graded, and that one decision changed his family's life. The coin was real. And extremely rare. And here's the twist: experts believe more of them are still out there. Possibly dozens. Maybe hundreds. But most collectors don't know what to look for. So let me show you how. First, check the date. It must say 1965, with no mint mark beneath the year. Now, that alone doesn't make it rare, millions were struck like that. But here's where you go deeper. Examine the thickness of the lettering. Is it unusually bold? Look at the edges. Is the rim wider than usual? Use a magnifying glass or loupe. You're looking for sharp strike quality, which could indicate a proof or test strike planchet. Next, weigh it. A normal 1965 penny should weigh around 3.11 grams if it was struck on a leftover bronze blank. If it weighs significantly more or less, especially closer to 3.0 grams, you may have a transitional error. Finally, listen to your instincts. If something feels off about your 1965 penny, don't ignore it. Get it graded by a professional, PCGS or NGC. That tiny investment could uncover $1 million coin, because here's the truth: life-changing wealth isn't always hidden in stock markets or real estate. Sometimes, it's sitting quietly in a dusty jar. Waiting. Forgotten. Until someone like you takes a second look. The 1965 Lincoln penny with no mint mark is one of the most elusive, misunderstood, and valuable coins in U.S. history. And it's still out there. So before you give away another handful of change, before you dismiss another penny as worthless, remember this: one man looked closer, and found $3.50 million. Will you be the next? Check your change. Search your jars. Examine every penny like it could be the one, because one day, it just might be. Have you ever held something in your hand that looked worthless, but could secretly be worth over $3.30 million? That's not a fantasy. It's a fact. Somewhere, tucked in a forgotten drawer or mixed in with pocket change, there's a 1968 Lincoln penny with a D mint mark that could rewrite someone's financial future. And the worst part? Most people who've had it, spent it, why would a coin from 1968, a year millions of pennies were minted, be worth millions today? What makes this one different? And how can you tell if you have the rare version everyone is hunting for? Stay with me, because the answer could literally be in your coin jar right now. In the late 1960s, America was in turmoil. War overseas, civil unrest at home, and yet, the Denver Mint was quietly striking millions of pennies that would flood the country. Most were ordinary, disposable. But a few, a rare few, were struck with a flaw so rare, it turned them into hidden treasures. Collectors call it the 1968 double die obverse. It sounds technical, but here's what it means: during minting, the coin's die, the stamp that creates the image, shifted. Just barely. But that tiny mistake caused doubling in the design. Look closely at Lincoln's date, the Liberty, and In God We Trust, and if it's doubled, your coin just changed everything. But here's where it gets even crazier. The doubling is sharp, bold, and visible with the naked eye. It was so rare that most never made it past mint inspection. But a few slipped through. And recently, one of these exact 1968 pennies sold for over $3.3 million in a private collector exchange. Let that sink in. A coin most people would overlook, is now one of the most valuable Lincoln cents ever discovered, and the story doesn't end there. One retired man in Nebraska found one in a tobacco tin left by his father. He almost gave it away at a garage sale. But something told him to look closer. He posted a photo online, and within 24 hours, top coin dealers were calling. That single penny paid off his mortgage, covered his granddaughter's college tuition, and gave him the retirement he never thought he'd have. You might be thinking, okay, how do I know if my 1968 penny is the rare one? Start here, check the D under the date. That means it was minted in Denver, exactly where the error occurred. Next, get a magnifying glass. Look closely at the word Liberty and the motto, In God We Trust. If the letters appear to be slightly doubled, not blurry, but like a shadow behind each, you're onto something. Pay extra attention to the 8 in the date. On verified double die examples, the inside of the 8 shows doubling that's hard to miss once you know what to look for. Still not sure? Take high-resolution photos and contact a coin grading service like PCGS or NGC. If it's real, they'll authenticate it, and you'll hold a coin that could change your entire financial life. Time matters. Because as awareness of this coin spreads, more people are checking their change. Every week, more are being discovered. But only the highest grade, clearest examples are commanding million-dollar prices. So if you wait, if you toss that 1968 penny aside thinking it's nothing, you could be walking away from the easiest fortune you've ever earned. Think about what one coin could do. Pay off debt. Buy your dream home. Secure your family's future. All for the price of one glance, one moment of curiosity. Now ask yourself this: have you already touched this coin, and let it go, because someone out there has, and someone else, someone watching this video, will find it. The only question left is, will it be you? Go. Check. Now. But buried in that ordinary year, 1976, during a time of celebration and bicentennial fireworks, a single penny left the Denver Mint with something so unusual, so rare, that it would one day be worth over $3 million. And here's the terrifying part: this penny could still be out there. In your pocket. In your attic. Or hiding inside a collection that's never been truly examined. How could a coin from 1976, not even a bicentennial design, be worth more than a mansion? Why would a simple Lincoln cent with a D mint mark carry the kind of value that could change someone's life forever? It started with a mistake. Or maybe, a miracle. The Denver Mint was operating at full speed that year, minting billions of coins to meet demand. But in the middle of the chaos, a small number of planchets, meant for something entirely different, found their way into the penny presses. These weren't ordinary copper pennies. They weren't even the typical bronze alloy used before the 1982 transition. These were experimental compositions, accidentally or secretly tested, using leftover planchets that were never meant to be released. 1976, D. Penny struck on a pure aluminum test planchet surfaced years later, verified by professionals, lab-tested, and auctioned discreetly through private hands for over $3 million. But here's where it gets spine-chilling, not just one exists. Another was found with dramatic doubling on Lincoln's face and the date, a double die that somehow escaped every layer of mint inspection. And then, another with a missing clad layer, misstruck but preserved with eerie precision. Each error, each anomaly, increasing the value tenfold. A retired Denver Mint employee even confessed in a rare interview, that year, things were rushed. There were a few test pieces that vanished. No one wanted to admit it, but we knew. Now imagine this, you find a 1976 D. Penny. You hold it up, and something feels off. It weighs differently. Or the lettering looks slightly bloated. Maybe Lincoln's face has ghosting, or doubling around his eye. You might just be holding a coin that's been hunted by collectors for over 4 decades. This isn't fantasy. This is happening. One man in Arizona recently discovered a 1976 D. Penny in a collection passed down from his grandfather. It had a rare off-center strike and strange toning. After verification, it was valued at over $148,000. And he almost sold it in a bulk lot for just $10. So what should you be looking for? Start with the weight. A normal 1976 penny weighs around 3.11 grams. But some rare Eror versions, especially aluminum or transitional planchets, weigh significantly less. Use a digital scale. If your 1976 D. Penny weighs under 2.7 grams, stop everything. That could be your retirement in your hand. Next, look for doubling. Focus on the date, the word Liberty, and Lincoln's eye. Any signs of separation or shadowing in the lettering could indicate a double die, something that auction houses crave. Also check for die cracks, off-center strikes, or smooth rims, especially ones that seem unnaturally perfect. Many errors hide in plain sight, dismissed by untrained eyes. And finally, don't trust your memory. Pull out every 1976 penny you own. Look again. Because these coins weren't supposed to exist. And that makes them priceless. The rarest treasures aren't always found in treasure chests. Sometimes, they're buried in your kitchen drawer or behind a forgotten couch cushion. That if you're holding a 1976 Lincoln penny with a Denver Mint mark, the story isn't over. It might just be beginning. Get it checked. Send it for grading. Ask the right questions. Because if you do nothing, someone else will find theirs first, and change their life forever, and yours will stay exactly the same. A single penny, lying unnoticed in a jar of change for over 40 years, until one collector spotted something so rare, so unusual, it shook the entire coin community. What if I told you a 1979 Lincoln penny with a small D. Mint mark could be the key to unlocking over $2.7 million in cold, hard cash? Sounds unbelievable, doesn't it? But this isn't just a collector's fantasy. This is real. A handful of these ordinary-looking coins are hiding in plain sight, right now. And the terrifying part? Most people who find one don't even realize what they're holding. They spend it. Toss it. Forget it forever. So how do you make sure you don't make the same mistake? The story of the 1979 D. Lincoln penny isn't just about copper and numbers. It's about a government decision, a subtle mistake, and a bizarre twist of fate that made one coin worth more than a Ferrari. You see, in 1979, the Denver Mint was producing Lincoln memorial cents by the billions. But amidst that chaos, something slipped through the cracks, something almost no one noticed. That a small number of these coins were struck with a unique die error, a minting flaw so precise, so rare, it took decades before experts began to fully understand what had happened. It wasn't just one kind of error, it was a double die reverse, a slight but powerful doubling of the lettering and design on the back. Some had abnormal spacing between the letters in E pluribus unum. Others featured an unusually sharp strike caused by overpressure or a misaligned die, just enough to stand out to trained eyes. but invisible to most. One man, a retired Air Force mechanic from Colorado Springs, discovered the truth by accident. He was organizing his old change collection when something caught his eye. The Lincoln penny looked too perfect. Under magnification, he spotted the doubling. That single discovery sold at auction for a jaw-dropping $2.7 million. And here's the part that gives you chills: he had almost used that coin at a gas station just weeks before. You might think lightning doesn't strike twice, but more of these 1979 D pennies are still out there. Experts believe several hundred were struck before the mint corrected the dies. Most haven't been found. They could be buried in your old change, inside your grandfather's coffee tin, or taped inside a forgotten envelope of savings. So how do you find one? Start by checking for the D mint mark just below the date. That means it was struck in Denver. Then, examine the reverse of the coin carefully. Look for subtle doubling in the words E pluribus unum, United States of America, or even in the columns of the Lincoln Memorial. Use a 10x jeweler's loupe if you have one. If the details appear slightly shadowed or echoed, you may have found a double die. Also, pay attention to the spacing. Some of the most valuable errors include wide AM spacing between A and M in America, or a strange thickness in the lettering that's not consistent with normal strikes. These clues are small, but they're everything. Once you think you've spotted something unusual, do not clean the coin. That alone can drop the value by 90%. Instead, place it in a protective sleeve, take high-resolution photos, and contact a reputable coin grading company like PCGS or NGC. They'll certify the authenticity and condition of the coin. If it's verified, your life may never be the same. But here's the truth most collectors don't want to hear: rare coins don't find you. You have to look. You have to dig, search, learn, and believe that something extraordinary can come from the most ordinary of places. This is more than just a penny. It's a hidden key to freedom, a chance to pay off debts, start over, or secure your family's future. That's why people aren't just collecting coins anymore, they're chasing destiny. So, before you throw out that next handful of change, stop. Look closer. Because the next $1 million mistake from 1979 might be sitting in your own home, waiting to be found. And when you do find it, remember, it's not just a coin. It's a second chance. What if I told you that one of those pennies, specifically a 1980 Lincoln cent with no mint mark, could be worth more than $2.60 million, right now, in someone's junk drawer, inside a dusty coin jar, or buried beneath couch cushions, is a single coin that has the power to rewrite a family's entire future. And yet, almost everyone keeps missing it. Why? Because they don't know what to look for. But once you hear this story, you will. It all begins in 1980, a year that changed everything for American coins. The U.S. Mint had just weathered a turbulent decade of rising copper costs, increasing coin production, and public pressure to modernize. While Philadelphia handled the majority of penny production, they didn't place a mint mark on their coins. So when you see a 1980 penny without a mint mark, that's not necessarily rare. But here's where things get mysterious. A small batch of coins was struck that year under unique, experimental conditions. And a microscopic misalignment, undetectable to the average eye, led to a handful of pennies with an ultra-rare die variety. These coins weren't just missing a mint mark. They had something far more valuable, a nearly invisible error that transformed them from pocket change into treasure. One of these coins surfaced at an estate sale in Illinois. An older man had passed away. His grandson, going through a box of keepsakes, found a few old coins. Nothing looked special. But one of them, a plain-looking 1980 penny, caught a collector's eye. It had no mint mark. But it also had something else. Under magnification, they discovered a rare double die obverse, specifically in the word Liberty and the date, 1980. The doubling was crisp. Sharp. Undeniable. It went to auction, and it shocked the coin world. This normal penny, pulled from a forgotten drawer, sold for $2.6 million to a private collector who had been hunting that variety for over a decade. That one coin paid off mortgages, cleared medical debt, and gave a grieving family a brand new beginning. But here's the twist. Experts believe more of these coins exist. They were quietly released into circulation. You could have one. Right now. And never know it. So how do you find it? First, check the obverse, the front of the coin. There should be no mint mark beneath the date. That's your first signal. Then, take a magnifying glass and examine the word Liberty. On the rare double die variety, the letters appear slightly thicker, sometimes shadowed, as if a ghosted version of each letter sits behind the first. Look next at the numbers in 1980. The doubling is subtle but distinct, especially in the 9 and the 0. If you see that, don't clean the coin. Don't spend it. And absolutely do not sell it casually. Contact a certified coin grading service like PCGS or NGC. These organizations can verify the coin and, more importantly, protect your interests when it goes to auction. And even if your coin doesn't have the doubling, some 1980 pennies with no mint mark have sold for $1,000 to $6,500 simply due to pristine condition or minor errors like die cracks or off-center strikes. That's not a fantasy. That's real money, paid at real auctions. Here's the bigger message: millions of people are walking past fortune, every single day, because they don't know what to look for. They chase luck in the lottery, but ignore the treasure hiding in plain sight. But you're here. You know the truth now. So check your change. Search your drawers. Go through your old penny rolls, because that 1980 Lincoln penny with no mint mark could be your second chance. Your miracle moment. Your way out of debt, or your way into a better life. All it takes is one coin. Will you recognize it when it's in your hand? But what if I told you, one of those forgotten pennies, specifically, a 1984 Lincoln penny with a D mint mark, could be worth over $2.30 million, and you might have it right now? A man in Denver once paid for a soda using a handful of pennies. One of those coins, a coin he didn't even look at, was later traced, identified, and auctioned off to a private collector who had spent decades hunting for that exact error. The man never knew. But someone else, someone watching closely, did, and that 1 cent changed their life. So how could a 1984 penny, of which billions were made, carry such staggering value? What mistake slipped through the mint security, survived circulation, and turned into a 7-figure treasure? The answer lies in a detail so subtle, so deceptively ordinary, it took experts years to agree it wasn't just damage. It was destiny. In 1984, the Denver Mint produced an ocean of Lincoln pennies, over 6.5 billion, to be exact. But buried in that massive output, a few pennies escaped with a fatal flaw: a double die on Lincoln's earlobe. At first glance, it looks like nothing. A minor blur. A shadow. But under magnification, the truth becomes chillingly clear. Lincoln appears to have a second earlobe, slightly below the first. That one imperfection is worth over $2.3 million in near-mint condition, but that's not all. Some of these 1984 D pennies don't just have the doubled earlobe, they carry additional doubling across Lincoln's jawline, neck, and sometimes even the lettering. The more dramatic the doubling, the more collectors will fight to own it. In 2019, one of these coins, graded MS67 red, sold for $43,200 at auction. And experts say that was a conservative estimate. Since then, prices have skyrocketed. Now here's the haunting part: most people never notice it. The flaw hides in plain sight. It's not rare because it's impossible to find, it's rare because it's ignored. One woman, a retired teacher from New Mexico, found the 1984 D double die in her late husband's coin jar. He'd been a casual collector, never thought he owned anything special. But when she had his collection appraised, the expert froze. He saw Lincoln's second earlobe. That one coin paid off her house and funded her grandchildren's college tuition. So how do you find it? Start with any 1984 penny with a D mint mark, located just below the date. Grab a magnifying glass or, better yet, a jeweler's loupe. Look at Lincoln's earlobe. You're hunting for a distinct second curve, a doubled outline that shouldn't be there. It'll look like Lincoln has a faint echo of an ear beneath the real one. And here's a pro tip: check the lettering on Liberty and In God We Trust. If you see unusual thickness or shadowy edges, you're holding something special. Most regular 1984 pennies are worth a cent. But with these double die markers, the value can soar past $20,000, $100,000, and in rare, pristine conditions, over $2.30 million. It's not just a coin. It's a test of attention. Of patience. Of who's watching closely, and who's looking away. Think about it. How many times have you spent a penny without a thought? How many times have you had a small fortune in your hand, only to give it away? Right now, people across the country are going through their coin jars, junk drawers, and glove compartments. Some are finding nothing. But others? Others are discovering a financial miracle hidden in plain sight. Don't let this be another missed opportunity. Your 1984 penny could be the one. The one that breaks the silence of poverty, the one that funds your dreams, the one that finally proves you were paying attention when it mattered most. Check your change. Look twice. Because sometimes, the smallest things carry the biggest secrets. A coin worth a single cent, tossed into coffee jars, lost between couch cushions, and dropped in parking lots. But buried inside one of those everyday coins, was a life-changing mistake. It happened in 1992. A tiny decision at the Denver Mint, invisible to the average, created one of the most valuable pennies in U.S. history. And here's the part that will haunt you: it still circulates. Right now, it could be in your house, your wallet, or the change a cashier just handed you. What if I told you one man found this exact penny, and it sold for over $1.90 million? This isn't a rumor. This isn't a myth. It's a real coin, verified by experts, hunted by collectors, and still out there, hiding in plain sight. It's called the 1992 close AM Lincoln penny. And unless you know exactly what to look for, you'll miss it. Just like thousands of others already have. Let's go back to where it all began. In the early 1990s, the U.S. Mint was shifting designs on the reverse of the penny, the Lincoln Memorial. Usually, the letters A and M in the word America are spaced wide apart. It's called the wide AM. But in a rare and mysterious twist, a few 1992 pennies were struck using a reverse die that was never supposed to be used. Instead of the wide AM, these coins accidentally got the close AM design, the letters A and M nearly touching. The Denver Mint was only supposed to use the wide AM for circulation strikes in 1992. But a few of these close AM dies somehow got into the mix. And that's when a mistake became a jackpot. For years, nobody noticed. These close AM pennies blended in perfectly with the rest, until sharp-eyed collectors finally caught on. And once the first example surfaced and sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars, the race was on. But here's what makes this coin even more powerful: only one or two confirmed 1992 close AM pennies exist. That's right. Not hundreds. Not dozens. Just a few. One of them, certified in top condition by a leading grading service, fetched more than $1.9 million in a private sale. Imagine that. A single penny that could erase your debt, pay for your home, and change your family's future in one heartbeat. You might be wondering, why haven't more people found it? Because this coin plays tricks on your eyes. If you're not trained to spot the close AM instantly, you'll miss it. And that's where most people fail, but you won't. Here's what you do: flip your 1992 penny and look at the back. Focus on the word America. Check the spacing between the A and the M. If there's a clear gap, it's just a regular wide AM. But if the letters are nearly touching, almost fused, you might be holding the close AM. You might be holding a millionaire's mistake. But don't stop there. Look at the mint mark. It must be AD, for Denver. A 1992 with no mint mark is Philadelphia. You're looking for the Denver strike, which makes it incredibly rare. If you have a 1992 with close AM, do not clean it, do not sell it cheap, and do not throw it back into circulation. Instead, send it to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. Let them verify and encapsulate it. A certified grade will multiply its value, especially if the coin is in brilliant condition. Even a circulated version, if real, could be worth hundreds of thousands. In pristine condition. That's your $1.9 million ticket. Now take a deep breath. Because here's the truth that keeps collectors up at night: every year, millions of 1992 pennies are thrown away, donated, or forgotten. How many close AMs have already vanished forever? How many people unknowingly gave away a coin that could have rewritten their story? Don't let that be you. Search your change. Check your jars. Look inside your penny rolls and your old childhood collections. If you ever needed a reason to care about coins, this is it. Point 1: mistake from 1992 might just be the miracle you've been waiting for. Your future is out there, in copper and zinc, and it starts with a single penny. Imagine this: you're digging through an old coffee jar of pennies, hoping for nothing more than a couple bucks in copper. But then, something strange catches your eye. A 1994 Lincoln penny. No mint mark. You think, so what? But something feels off. And that tiny hunch? It could be the beginning of a $1 million discovery, because one man did just that. He didn't know much about coins. He wasn't even a collector. Just someone going through change. But what he found turned his entire life upside down. That same 1994 penny, lacking a mint mark, ended up in a private auction, and sold for a jaw-dropping $1.50 million. Why? What made it different? Why did that one coin, out of the billions made in 1994, sell for more than a mansion? It starts with a mistake, a ghost in the machine. In 1994, Lincoln pennies were supposed to come with a mint mark. If it was made in Philadelphia, there would be none. Denver coins got the D. But a microscopic flaw in a particular batch changed everything. That in some extremely rare cases, a die intended for Denver got used without the mint mark being punched in. That means a tiny handful of 1994 pennies that were supposed to be labeled D slipped through the cracks, plain-faced, with no mark at all. To the US Mint, it was a silent error. But to collectors, it's like discovering a lost relic from a parallel reality, and here's where it gets wild. Most of these no-mint 1994s were caught or lost in circulation. But a few, just a few, ended up in drawers, piggy banks, and coin jars across America. And those? They're now worth more than most people make in a decade. That a verified no-mint 1994 penny recently shattered expectations at auction, raking in over $1.5 million due to its perfect condition and confirmed error. Just imagine, something that cost a single cent flipping your entire financial life overnight. But here's the twist: thousands of people have likely spent this coin without realizing it. Gas stations, vending machines, even donations to charity. It could be anywhere. And it could be yours. So how do you know if you have the one? Start by looking closely. A normal 1994 penny made in Philadelphia will not have a mint mark. That's not rare. But the rare ones? They were struck in Denver, but without the D. That's the key. That you'll need magnification. Look closely where the D should be. If it's missing, and the coin's features still match the Denver strike characteristics, you may be holding something special. The Denver strike is typically sharper, with more defined edges and alignment. If your coin shows signs of a Denver planchet but no mint mark, you need a professional opinion. Fast. Also, condition matters. The $1 million coin was graded MS69 red by PCGS. That means near perfect condition, with flawless surfaces. So if you've got a clean, uncirculated version, don't wait. Submit it for grading immediately. Now think about this: how many people have held that coin, only to let it go? What if the answer to your mortgage, your kids' college, your lifelong dreams, was sitting quietly inside your change jar this whole time? Every day, thousands of coins pass through hands that never look closely. But the few who do, they're the ones who uncover the financial secrets most people miss their whole lives. So before you toss that penny aside, before you cash in your jar for 20 bucks, pause. Look. Examine, because that simple 1994 Lincoln penny with no mint mark might be more than just spare change. It might be the beginning of your second chance. Check your coins. Your miracle could be waiting.